Hello, welcome to Care Forward Innovations Podcast, hosted by Bernadette Vinas, sponsored by Care Forward AI, providing AI solutions for senior care. Care Forward Innovations, a new podcast focused on innovation in senior care and assisted living. We are dedicated to sharing the practical strategies that are truly making a difference, not just the academic concepts. We want to highlight what's actively improving resident care and operational efficiency.
Hi, everybody. So today we have Justine Nieves. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Nieves, but you were on the right track.
Oh, okay. And she is from Church Housing Corporation, located in Pennsylvania. And I believe you have 3 senior living communities located in Pennsylvania. Is that right? Okay. So can you tell us a little bit more about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at CHC?
Sure. So first and foremost, thank you, Bernadette, for introducing me. I appreciate, the opportunity to be here today and talk about senior living as well as AI and how that AI incorporates with our current industry and business and, of course, the people that we serve. My name is Justine Nieves. I am the Regional Director for Church Housing Corporation. I've been here with our organization. I am operating in almost my 10th year of service to the organization and to its mission. The organization is a nonprofit organization that provides housing to primarily our largest population is seniors, low-income seniors, transitional homeless, mental health, special needs, those who are experiencing mental health and special needs, as well as those who are experiencing transitional homelessness. So those who are experiencing homelessness, we are the housing provider and provide a program for them, as well as workforce affordable housing for families and first-time homebuyers. So we try to really meet the needs of our folks that are out there who cannot easily access housing in the free market.
That's so great.
On their own, given their marginal needs. So part of our focus, we started back in 1985, right here in this office. This was Father Evans' office.
Nice.
Organization 40 years ago in October. So you just so happen to be interviewing me on our 40th anniversary, the month of our 40th anniversary. So
Congratulations.
I'm pretty excited about that. We just celebrated that earlier this month. And our organization started because we saw that our seniors at the time, back in 1985, were struggling financially to be able to maintain their housing because our steel mill downtown closed, as well as our Army Hospital and the Archdiocese a few years before that wanted to put some type of senior housing projects together. And Father Evans, after 7 failures, was finally successful working with the federal government to build the town's first 7-story property. He had to convince downtown Phoenixville, which we are a very small town, to build this 7-story senior property for low-income seniors. And
Nice.
He was successful. That paved the way for this larger organization today. And like I said, 10 years ago, I joined almost 10 years ago, I joined the organization as a site manager and was promoted quite a few times to this position. I really felt as though this was a calling for myself. I came here after I graduated university. I went to Westchester University, graduated for behavioral health, and I really wanted to get into the nonprofit sector because I didn't want to continue to keep earning a dollar, because a dollar is always that owner of the business is always going to want more out of their people to keep those dollars, right?
Yes.
Nonprofit, it doesn't work like that. They don't base the employee and their worth off of that dollar. We really focus on growing our organization's employees by how well they give back to the mission. And that's really important to me. So we do serve about 150 low-income seniors approximately. And my role for that is I oversee the whole organization. So I work with our executive director. Her name is Ms. Catherine Evans. She's second generation to run the organization, her and I together, as well as our director of development, Ms. Tracy Patches. We run the day-to-day operations of the whole entire organization. So I oversee a staff of about, give or take, about 24, 25 people to run the overall company. In our senior sector, senior division, we probably have about, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 employees that help us run the senior properties. And I oversee compliance, hiring, training, problem solving. I mean, everything from, what the staff may struggle with to resident conflict resolution, no matter what it is, as well as maintaining all of our federal, state, and county contracts. So that's probably the biggest piece. I'm going through paperwork and maintaining compliance every single day to make sure that as long as when you are federally funded, you have to stay in compliance. And our residents have to income qualify to live in any of our properties. And they must recertify every single year that they live here because their rent that they pay to live in their unit is based on their income, which is amazing for seniors because we only ever have a standard of charging 30% of whatever the resident's income is, adjusted income, and that's what they pay towards their rent every year that they live here, which really was kind of what drew me to stay, as well as the larger partnerships that the organization has built over the years. So we depend on our nonprofit partners to not only, maintain the housing, but social services is a large piece for us. So we depend on other nonprofits, county agencies, state agencies, federal agencies to not only provide housing, but give our residents a quality of life. That's so important. So social activities, if they need, let's say we have a resident that has just Medicare that they can't afford for necessities like dental care, glasses, mammograms, things like that, we will refer them out to another nonprofit and they'll get it all done free of charge to them.
So nice. That's so nice.
Yes, we need aides. We have had our residents age in place here at our senior buildings that we can bring whatever it is they need, aid services, hospice services, what is it called when you're between hospice and the other thing, palliative care, bring that all in-house, working with outside agencies to ensure that whatever it is our seniors need, we can bring it right here in-house as long as it's safe and sanitary for them. So multiple different hats. I'm a jack of all trades. And I really love what I do. And I come here every day determined to make a difference for the residents that we serve, as well as the people that we work with, both internally as well as for the larger community. It's really, really important.
That must really provide so much comfort for your residents.
Every day. And, most of our residents that live here, I mean, if you were to interview any one of them, they tell you, if they're not grateful for anything, it's grateful to live in a safe place. We are a buzz-in only building. All of our buildings, you have to be buzzed in to protect their safety and be able to live here with financial peace of mind. No matter what goes on outside of here, they can always afford to age in place. They never have to worry that they won't be able to, they have to choose between their medication and whether or not they eat. That never happens here because we will find a way. Even if whatever happens up top at the government level, we will figure out a way to make sure that all their needs are met.
Any plans on opening up in Washington State? Because that's where I'm from.
Well, no, if it was up to me, we would have properties everywhere. We are in southeastern Pennsylvania, in Chester County, as well as Delaware County, which if you're out in Washington State, you may not be super familiar with us. So we're about 45 minutes from the city of Philadelphia.
Okay. Yeah, I do have family in Philadelphia, but I haven't been there yet. So one more in the bucket list to visit.
There you go. You can
So,
come down and see us anytime.
okay. So what do you feel, if you have noticed, have been the major shifts that you're seeing in your area within the senior care industry right now?
Oh, geez. I think that if you were to ask me what the shift is, I think, everything changed post COVID.
I bet.
As
Yes.
far as senior care. I mean, we didn't change the way that we do business, way the day-to-day operations. We grew during COVID, which was really unusual. Working in senior care, we just grew and grew. Our company, our staff is double in size now than what we were prior to COVID, which
Oh,
is
wow.
great. But what isn't so great, if you were to ask any one of my seniors what their biggest worry is, number one, it would be consistent in-home care. That
Mm.
is their biggest worry because a lot of our folks, this is independent living. We don't do nursing home care, we do independent living. So again, we really rely on those outside agencies, vendors, and nonprofit partnerships to provide support for our seniors in-house. Now we have an in-house social service coordinator that helps coordinate those needs. However, he, she, they, them are not necessarily providing those needs. So
Okay.
those aid services are so crucial to keeping a senior resident out of long-term care, really.
Mm.
And prior to COVID, our folks that were outside agencies that were providing in-home care. So I'm talking not just, you know, testing blood pressure, giving medicine. I'm talking more so household care, making sure that the resident is eating, making sure that the
Mm.
resident, because they may not have come in, moved into the property with those needs, but as they aged in place, they did need somebody to come in. So having an aide come in to be able to provide them with, help making their meals, help
Mm.
home doing their laundry, just taking the edge off of what they physically can't do anymore, have been so inconsistent and unreliable that it poses a challenge to the staff as well as, most importantly, to the residents for us to make sure, because our number one role as staff is maintaining a decent, safe, and sanitary unit. That's a HUD standard. So for us, we take that very, very seriously. I cannot sleep at night unless I know that all of my residents are safe where they live. And if not, I want to find a solution. My job is to help find the solution to keep people safe and sanitary, with kid gloves in mind, right? Because we're working with
Yes.
people and we're working with seniors. How do we do that with dignity and grace for them? So we have to think outside the box with that challenge. I see that universally throughout all of our properties. That is the biggest challenge. Second biggest challenge is the cost of living.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
um,
Everything's gone up.
well, and our seniors are living on a fixed income.
Yeah.
So although we can be their housing provider and maintain, their financial peace of mind with their housing and keep that standard, because none of our residents that live in our senior properties are responsible for any utilities either that are household utilities. So they would be responsible for cable, telephone, Wi-Fi, but we take care of the rest. So they don't have
Okay.
to worry about all of that, right? What their rent goes towards is just one solid payment, and that's it. Um, but what they do struggle with are those other things that are in between. So how do if I'm driving a vehicle, now I can't control the
Mm.
cost of insurance, right? Because that cost has skyrocketed with all of our natural disasters, right? I mean,
Yeah.
nationally, internationally, that cost has gone up. The cost for phone usage, depending on their income, we can get them a free phone through the federal government. But if they have a little bit of a higher income, that won't we can't
Mm.
do that. So those basic needs, and of course, the cost of food. And I know everyone is talking about food right now because of what's going on at the federal level, and I'll make this very nonpartisan. But even before, certain SNAP benefits were at risk, the cost of food was so incredibly high. So we are always working with our nonprofit partners, our food banks, our county food banks, our smaller food cupboards to make sure that none of our residents go hungry. But it's hard for them to come to us and say, hey guys, like this week is tough. I don't care what it is. I put all that stuff. To me, pride doesn't matter. It's a private conversation. We'll figure it out so that nobody is hungry. But if you were to ask them what their biggest worries are, it's inflation as well as the aid services being something that is, the staffing is just not consistent. And we're constantly working with restaffing of those agencies and making sure that our folks are safe there. I think the other big shift is we are federally funded and just constantly, I have never had to watch the federal government as much as I do now. Not, again, nonpartisan. I have
Yes,
any opinions or statements one way or the other, but things are changing all the time, so I have to, being that I'm in compliance and, I have to watch the 8 ball, so to speak. Like what changed today that didn't happen yesterday, because what we did yesterday may not be how we operate today, because HUD policy and procedure is changing all the time, and that's what controls, the subsidy of the property. So I have to be compliant there and make sure that we're on the ball all the time. So when I first got into the industry, paperwork was always the same. You did the same paperwork. It was always consistent. And my focus, of course, was always to the resident. We're people first, business second. And now I feel like, I'm like, oh my gosh, HUD saying we do this today. No, wait, maybe they said we do this tomorrow. I don't know. Like, I just got to watch it. And then, of course, I'm communicating with our executive director for, her contacts and understanding, okay, here's the change and here's how we apply it. So it's threefold for us, for sure.
Yeah. Have you had any problems retaining the nonprofit organizations that you work with?
You know what? I would have said, if you interviewed me back in January, I would have said I was worried because of the federal freeze, because that affected all of our nonprofit partners. Everyone was like, what do we do now? But as of right now, knock on wood, we are so incredibly, I have to say, we're so incredibly blessed that, we here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, we really look out for each other. That's really important to us as, nonprofit partners, that it doesn't matter if you're putting shoes on people's feet, food in people's bellies, fixing people's teeth. We've got a nonprofit in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania I feel like for everything. Out here, we have 89 nonprofits in the town of Phoenixville alone.
Oh, wow.
My executive, if she was here and she could speak for herself, she would remind me that that is more per capita than the city of Philadelphia.
It sounds like it.
We have so many nonprofits and so many mission-driven individuals who just are here and live here, frankly, to make a difference. So where they see a hole, they will fill it with what is necessary to continue to keep those organizations their own organizations going. And for those that are more, maybe a little bit more financially healthy, we help to support the others. That's really important to us, because no matter what someone's mission is, they can't do it by themselves. We certainly know we can't do it by ourselves. So we go out, we support them, and it comes back to us. So I really haven't seen any major changes. Do we anticipate that could happen? Yes, but I haven't seen any changes to date. I have seen that they know it's coming, but I haven't seen anybody have to close down or I have seen funding be suspended or cut from a lot of our nonprofit partners, but they've still managed. They may have been shut down for a period of time, but they were determined to come back. So far, they're moving strong, but they are strained. I will say that.
Gotcha. That's great. That's really great. So, what do you feel then has really impacted your business or growth strategy? Because you mentioned earlier, if it were you, you'd want to be able to grow.
Yeah, I think it's opportunity and
Opportunity. Okay.
partner agencies and reputation is big, especially in this industry. Affordable housing is not easy to come by. If you ask anybody, they'll all tell you there's not enough. It doesn't matter where you live nationally, they'll all say we need more affordable housing.
Hmm.
So we are our executive director is a part of committees, coalitions, and all of that that connects us with the people that are in development, that are working in development in those state connections, federal connections that we can grow. We just opened our last property opened in 2022, Pickney Hill Commons in Westchester, Pennsylvania. We're about, I'd say maybe we're downtown Westchester, walkable to the community. It was super exciting. I was a part of the lease up of the property. I watched it go from a hole in the ground to a bunch of walls to a bunch of people living in it. And all of that happened because of a dream and one phone call.
Wow.
Honestly, it was one phone call we built the property on um, the Milton Center's property, which is a traditional African American community center that is
Mhm.
over 100 years old. The community center's executive director, Ken Winston, reached out to our executive director, Catherine Evans, and said, hey, can we partner? We've got this extra set of land to the left of our community center that's undeveloped. Can we just get this ball rolling? Can we partner and build affordable housing here? To not only have affordable housing in downtown Westchester, which is a very affluent community, that was the most important part for us. But for them, it was about maintaining consistency at their community center as well as serving the people that found housing so unattainable that were coming to their community center. Super important. And we broke ground 2021, opened 2022, and we're still in the process now of continuing our mission of building affordable housing for families, individuals, and seniors. And we're working on newer projects now that unfortunately, I can't make public knowledge, but we
Mhm.
are still working on it to continue to grow. That's always
Okay.
the mission. If there's a piece of affordable housing property, a piece of property out there to build affordable housing, we're going to keep trying to make that happen, despite the circumstances and the challenges that may be presented. Whenever you build, doesn't matter if it's market rate or affordable housing. I mean, there are always challenges when you're doing development. So we are up for that challenge and we continue to grow.
So, do you try to reach out to any, I guess, companies or businesses?
Oh, yes, all the time. Um,
Okay.
so that would be more the executive director and our director of development
Mm.
responsibility, and they certainly do that on a daily basis. They're always in the back of our executive offices, working with all of our business connections, our contractor connections, as well as our state and federal connections to make that happen. And again, it starts with one phone call and
Hmm.
one dream for all of our properties, really. I mean, the same thing happened. This property I'm sitting in right now was built in St. Peter's Episcopal Church's parking lot. And it's a 7-story building. So it again starts with a phone call, a mission, and a dream.
Yeah. So basically, the current process is still working. It's just finding that right opportunity that
Correct.
and right chance.
And making those right connections. That's also
Yeah.
really important. And I think that no matter what your industry is, no matter what you do, it's always making the right connections and having,
Hmm.
you know,
And timing too, I believe does end up coming into play as well. It's just when you just ask at that right moment and then it just happens to be available, then you know.
yeah. And again, I think all things happen at the right time as well.
Hmm.
That plays a huge part into something. The company has to be at the right place to support another property,
Hmm.
both with staffing, with lease ups are They are so much work. It doesn't matter what type of residential housing you're building. If you have an apartment complex and you need to fill it, regardless if you're market rate, affordable, or subsidized, there's a whole process that goes into place. And when you're working with affordable housing, there are so many regulations that you have to follow, policy, procedure you have to follow with your lease up processes, that you have a ticking clock from the time you put the shovel in the ground until all of those units are filled. There's a whole process that has to happen. So it has to be the right time, the right connections, and the right place for sure.
So, for like a typical day for you, what does it kind of look like? Do you end up encountering any regular frustrating processes that you wish you could improve?
So I'm going to think this is a twofold question, right? So day to day, I'm going to make this real simple. My job, I never have the same day twice.
Wow. Okay.
Ever. I never know. I might have a schedule laid out for me for that day, and I wake up and I have two staff members call out, and now I have to fill in, problem solve, whatever. I might have a crisis at a property, because we always look at things here at Church Housing Corporation as, is it an emergency, is it an urgency, or is it a need, right? And I address it appropriately depending upon what the issue is or what the circumstance might be. The federal government may call us up and say, hey guys, we're coming out in 2 days or 2 weeks, get ready. So it really depends on what time of year it is. It depends on the day, and it depends on what's happening. And I just said this earlier to some of my staff I was working with. We were checking in on our residents, reviewing all of our residents at one of our properties. We do that once a month. Just to make sure that our executive director knows if there's any issues going on. Do we need long-term care? Do we need, aid supports, for our residents, so that way she can be supportive to the staff where they're at. And it's interesting. Every business operates with almost like a heartbeat. You have a heart in the center. You have the main arteries and the veins that come out that make that person breathe, make that business breathe. Our executive director, by far, she is the heart of the organization. If you were to talk to her, she is just so incredibly passionate, wakes up every day ready to make a difference, and knows, just like me, no day is ever the same. And, Tracy and I would be those vital arteries that go to the heart, and the staff would be the veins. So anything that happened, anything that could occur during the day, it could be a resident review, could be helping somebody put together software, could be helping somebody do a lease, could be, doing all of my data reports, my financial reports, budget reports, all that stuff. It just depends on the day, really, because no day is ever the same. So that's the first thing to answer your question. And your second question, you'll have to remind things that could present as a frustration or a challenge.
Yes. Like any process improvement you can think of that can just make things run so much better.
Oh my gosh. I think so. We are probably one of the last businesses that operate with paper. Nobody out there, when I say to folks, everyone is scared of AI, right? And I hate to, say anything negative, and I can talk about how I incorporate AI into our organization, our industry, right? But HUD, Housing Urban Development, which provides the subsidy to the property, they don't want anything done electronically at all. You
Oh, wow.
need an electronic file just for safety purposes, that God forbid there be, a building crisis, right? Like where you store your files, but they have a whole policy and procedure around paper files, right? They come out, they audit, and there must be a paper file and a policy procedure on how that paper file is being managed for a resident. It is intense. And again, like I said, it's always changing. So first and foremost, I love a challenge. That I wouldn't be in this industry if I didn't like problem solving, and I certainly wouldn't be in this position. It just wouldn't be for me. So I will say that one of the challenges that I mean, it's obviously a challenge in this world. You are living in an advanced technical world with older traditional ways of doing things. Now we have electronic ledgers now, we have electronic documents and that type of thing. And I use Microsoft just like everybody else does, Microsoft
Hmm.
Teams, Outlook, the whole thing. I use all those things. But we have to have paper files. So we are literally like, if you go to the doctor and they don't even have paper charts anymore.
No.
Period. You might have like a piece of paper to keep notes, but I wouldn't even function if I didn't have post-its. And nobody uses those anymore. I could fill a landfill with these post-its. I swear. We all use them because we have to, if we give a resident a letter, it has to be maintained in their file. Every piece of paper that is relevant to that individual has to be retained in a tenant file. And they have to be locked away. Again, whole process. So that presents a challenge in a world that's moving in an AI direction, right?
Hmm.
Because everyone else is worried about, oh my gosh, how is AI going to affect if my position is even going to be there 5 years from now?
Hmm.
I can tell you, as long as HUD is operating the way that they are, and low income housing tax credit program, which is also an IRS national program, as well as our Chester County Housing Authority, as long as all of us still have to use paper, my professional life doesn't replicate what everyone else is seeing. Does that make sense?
Yes. So maybe we should target the HUD. Get them to,
Yeah,
go into the technology. Although I could,
show up, like
yeah,
right now there is no, our government isn't operating, and I mean, it is what it is, right?
yeah.
But I think we have to get to a place where government agency, if you don't have the right amount of staffing in place to execute policy,
Hmm.
then that policy won't change. Does that make sense?
I guess what worries me with paper is what if there's a fire? Then what?
You keep backup scanned documents. That's the best way to
Electronic.
electronic documents.
Okay.
That's the best way to protect yourself and your business.
So it's used as a backup though, versus the other way around.
But HUD doesn't require that. They don't require it. So if you don't
Hmm.
have a backup scanned document, then your tenant, and we also, excuse me, we also use software, right? We do use software to create what's called HUD 50059. That's a pretty standard document for all federally subsidized properties. We all have to use a document. That's basically HUD's version of a lease, right? They have a separate lease, but then they use this form called a 50059 every year. And we use software to complete that, where we input data into the software and it generates out what's called the 50059, but it all has to be printed. It all has to be maintained in the tenant file. So worst case scenario, even if we were to lose the tenant file, the software and anything we do, any of our documents, they're all stored electronically. Our company documents, our HUD documents, all of that is stored electronically. However, we still have to maintain these paper documents, and they have to be accurate and consistent. So that even though, yes, in a way we are digitally compliant and we are trying to match that of all the other businesses out there, by maintaining electronic documents and that are accessible to all staff that are relevant to those staff members, right? Like I wouldn't put, one property's files on somebody else's for a different property manager that doesn't manage it, right? I can manage all those things, but I still have to maintain these paper documents. So we will always be a little bit behind the eight ball that way. So if
Okay.
we could, maybe change something, I would make it a little bit more standard for properties to not necessarily have to require paper documents at every single property. Because you're right, you can maintain electronic files, but what happens in the event of a fire? What if somebody moved in 1991 and, yes, you've scanned their original documents in and made them electronic, but you can't really read them because they were scanned. So a lot of it shows up crinkly or messed up because we didn't do anything electronically in 1991, right? Like we didn't
Yeah.
have computers and accessibility like we do today. So those kinds of things are still relevant. And even if we were to have a fire, it may not look the same.
Mm.
So making it a little bit consistent. And also, I would say um, having a little bit more going back pre-COVID. Okay, ride me here for just a minute. Ride on my boat with me. Um, Going back to a place where things were a little bit more predictable about what would happen with our funders. Does that make sense? Because it makes it easier to build development.
Hmm.
Things aren't constantly changing all the time. And, the cost of lumber is this much today, but it wasn't this much yesterday, right? So even when you're building buildings, you have to think about how much is, excuse me, how much the cost of supplies is. That's number one. Number two, that's changing for all of us. But, prior to COVID, we also could predict and understand what our day to day would look like because things were changing so frequently all the time. So with policy, with procedure, I could come in and be like, okay, here's what a research looks like today. Whereas if I come in tomorrow, yes, we'll be doing the same research, but the overall may look different. The overall HUD may look a little bit different. So we have to be able to work within those current policies and procedures.
So do you have manual processes that you wish you could eliminate
The need
with technology?
uh, current processes with technology specifically?
No, any like manual process that you're doing. For example, maybe entering data about your residents. Instead of having that be manually entered, if let's say we're having a call right now, you can just record whatever's on the call and then have it automatically be entered into the
I would
system.
love that for us. Please bring that into my whole life. Data entry is human beings. We make a lot of errors, and
Mhm.
and part of my job is compliance and making sure that data entry is totally accurate. All the calculations to calculate somebody's rent. It's not. We here in subsidized housing, there is no such thing as a standard rent amount for like one bedrooms aren't $1,500 for one. It doesn't work like that. The
Yeah,
contract
yeah.
be that, but the person is only paying their 30% of their adjusted income. So another big piece is constantly calculating. And not only that, when an auditor comes out, they want to see, just like when we were in grade school, show me your work. Show me how you got this number. How did you calculate this rent?
Yeah.
Down to all the, if I could speak into a computer system and be like, da 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 da, and it just records it, puts the data in our software, oh my goodness, that would just be life changing for us. And it would make our jobs so much easier.
Well, I can tell you this right now, that is definitely totally possible at this point.
Yes, I will say that I have incorporated AI in so many different ways that we operate business, and trying to educate our executive director on AI. That's very new. She's not super technology savvy, right? So I can tell you, she's not super savvy. So I'll sit and say, okay, so if we use AI will do X, Y, Z for us. And she's like, no, no, no. Are you sure? I'm like, no, yes, I'm sure. Let me show you. And like, I'll show her just basic things. But if I could talk into AI and have it record the data and put the data in for me, I would absolutely do it. Right now, that we just don't have that capability through our software.
Yeah. It's not even just entering data, it's also analyzing. So it can also analyze and put in summaries and bullet points and things like that can easily make it so much faster for someone to then go through and understand, what the conversation was all about without even being there. So,
That's very scary, but I know that that is what is coming. And
well, scary, but not necessarily. I know that AI has a really negative connotation that it can eliminate jobs. But if you think about it, before computers were created, there was probably other specific type of jobs that were there, but then it changed. So it's all about adaptation. So when you have AI, it's just things are going to be different. So, for example, instead of having to manually take 2 hours entering data, you could be then focusing on your resident, helping them, and giving that personal touch. So your job is not really eliminated; it's just changed.
yeah,
So a lot of it, can end up just going that way instead of the fear of, oh, AI is going to eliminate my job.
so you're right. It has this negative connotation for sure. And for me, I don't necessarily feel that, at least in my industry, I don't. We have a lot more other things to kind of challenges that present itself that we focus more of our attention on, like you said, that care, that personal touch. But it does make a difference for me personally.
Mhm.
Um, Only in this, I guess, and I know we're going to head to this particular section of the interview, but I will tell you that although, I may not use software that way just yet, I am aware that that software does exist. And I do use AI now it used to take me, oh my goodness, I would have to use my university degree for my English and editing and, oh, to write letters, resident letters.
Yes.
It would take me forever to just find the right words. Sometimes that's really the hardest part of writing a letter to a resident, whether it be positive or whatever it is you're talking about, when you need to notify a resident of something. You're either
Hmm.
writing them a personal letter or you're sending out a memo because, I don't know, the fire alarm is being tested. So you don't want everybody to get all bent out of shape because there's no fire. It's just being tested, right?
Hmm.
AI writes those memos now. You,
Yeah.
I don't got to write the memo. AI writes the memo. You put what is it called? You type in what AI needs, the prompts. That's what I want to say. You put
Mm.
the prompts in, and then AI will generate that.
Yeah.
Part of another piece of my job is writing management letters to tenants
Hmm.
company wide. That let's say I'm writing them a letter because I have to come out and do a third unit inspection because it just didn't pass due to sanitation issues. Now I'm getting involved to help problem solve what's going on site with the tenant. So I'll write them a letter and let them know that I'm coming out to inspect their unit. It used to take me forever to find the right words to make it sound professional, to make it
Hmm.
sound like I'm not, yes, it's punitive, right? Because now I'm getting involved and this is your third unit inspection. So if we can't correct it together, then unfortunately there's going to be consequences for that, the damage that continues to happen in a unit, right?
Hmm.
So I don't want them to feel like I'm attacking them, but I want them to understand that if I'm here now, we got to work this out. We got to problem solve this, and we got to get social services involved or whatever to help us get your unit to pass so that we can help maintain your housing. That is, again, it used to take me forever to find the right words so that somebody didn't feel as though I was writing a letter to attack them. I'm just
Mm.
trying to, as Catherine always said, say we're building fences. We're not building fences, we're building bridges with our tenants, right? We want to help them maintain their housing, especially because affordable housing is so hard to come by these days,
Hmm.
right? So I have to try to problem solve it with them and help them get on board with what I need them to do, right? So now I put it in AI. If I don't like what AI is generating for me, I say, make this sound nicer.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Or
Whoa!
softer.
And then just spits it out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this would have taken me 2 hours to find the right words to say to this person to try to get them back on track, right?
Yeah.
And help them understand what I'm telling them, give them the message, and then help them get back on track and let them know, most importantly, hey, I'm coming out. Right. So it does write my letters for me. It does help us write. Well, it helps me find the right words for my letters. It won't write the whole letter because you need to understand what is being written and how to find those grammatical errors. Grammatical errors are going to be so much harder to come by these days because AI is there to fix it.
Yeah.
As well as memos, as well as the hiring process for us. Indeed started incorporating AI, which at first I was like, I don't know, this might come off as impersonal. I don't want people to feel like it's just a generated message goes out to them. But back in 2023, nonprofits, I will tell you traditionally, although I have certainly bought into the mission, and this is my daily life's work as well, I have to convince other people that this is for them, if this is really the person I want for the job, right? Because nonprofits, they are, in a way, for some positions, they're not always as competitive because for-profit can pay more than a nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
Just fact. So I didn't want everybody to feel like it was impersonal. But at the same time that AI has been introduced, we have also come into an employment environment that is unreal as an employer. We have, in 2023, during the Great Resignation, because people were going from one job to another job to another job and chasing the dollars, people were just hopping from job to job to job. I wouldn't get as many applications. Now for one job that is a entry-level position, I might have had 10 applications within 24 hours, right, for one job. Now I have 50 to 60 applications within 24 hours for an entry-level position, where I'm like, oh my goodness, even for janitorial work, which I know janitorial work, you don't need a degree. You don't need it. You just need to have experience and, of course, a clean background. We are lenient, but crazy back there. To work with for a janitorial position, I'll get 100 resumes. Where I'm, whoa, like sometimes I'm like, man, I was worried about it not being personal, but at this point, thank goodness for AI, because if not, I wouldn't be able to filter out people as easily and as quickly. There is only so much time in the day, especially so many people need a job. It is so different now than it was even 2 years ago, because there were 3 jobs for every one person. Now there might be 0.5 jobs for one person because everybody's now incorporating AI. Our government is going through what it's going through, and everybody's kind of sticking with this. I want to keep who I have, and I don't want to bring anybody new in right now unless I have to, because I'm kind of hanging on to what I have and freezing bringing in new people. Whereas I'm on the other end, I'm growing. So I'm out here, in this environment where folks are like, yeah, it took me X amount of time to find the right job because the climate is just so different. And they'll go and do interview after interview, but lots of times there's also schemes that are out there for employment, and it feels so bad. It's just hard. So AI really does help to feed out resumes that may not be what I'm looking for. They will help. I can make templates of different messages I want to give to applicants for jobs, that those templates are already written for me, depending on what the process of employment. I can just click and send them a message that's already pre-populated, that I've already written, saved, and sent. AI generates messages every time somebody applies, and I don't have to go through 80 applications when I found the right person, or 80 resumes when I found the right person, and I need to gently reject the other 79. AI does that for me. I don't have to do any of that.
Nice. Also, you do have at least some technologies in place, then that's good.
Yes, I do. Starting January 1, one of my goals was we have to figure out a way to make at least some of our tasks easier on ourselves, because our staff wears so many hats. regardless of the positions that they're in, to cut into the unnecessary time to be able to focus on things that are more important.
So let's say if you have a magic wand that you want to fix just one big thing in your business that's holding you back or slowing you down, what would that be?
It wouldn't be AI. If I'm being honest with you,
Mhm.
there is one thing, being in this field, I wish we had better mental health services.
Mm.
Uh, I know that at least where I am, I know our county is trying. We now have, I think it's national too. It started out, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, 18 months ago, the number 988. So this is just in case you're not familiar with that, 988 is basically the 911 now for mental health, which I think
Oh, okay.
is so awesome that within approximately an hour of a call, um, a team of folks will come out and assess the situation,
Mm.
which is helpful. I have seen improvement there, and I'm a big believer of paying credit to where credit is due. However, mental health services are so expensive. Therapeutic treatment is expensive, medication is expensive. When someone is facing, especially working, not so much like our seniors, I think our country we are always investing money and research into Alzheimer's and dementia. And I am so grateful for that because I see that a lot as people age in place, right? They came to us without that diagnosis and now they're aging in place. And we work with our seniors where they are with Alzheimer's and dementia, onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, okay? It's
Mhm.
until they become unsafe, like they start to wander or they, there's just certain motor skills and things like that start to decrease. Then we'll look into long-term care. But we really try to keep them here at home if we can. Um, on the other end of the company, when you're working with our transitional homeless, I think there's this stigma. First and foremost, if there was one thing I want everyone to know, people have this connotation and this preconceived stereotype that our homeless population are made up of drug addicts and alcoholics. And I'll be the first one to tell you, that is not
It's
true.
not. Yeah.
It is not true. I can tell you, working with that population, serving that population, being in the trenches with our folks that are experiencing homelessness, they would want you to know that is not true. That is a stereotype.
It's more mental
It is
illness.
undiagnosed, untreated
Yeah.
mental health. That's the
Mental
first.
health.
And the second thing is, I have seen more senior homeless folks, people experiencing homelessness as a senior than I've ever seen in the almost 10 years of working in this field. And our executive director would say the exact same thing. We have
Yeah.
seniors living in transitional housing just waiting for their names to come up on senior housing wait lists that are 5 to 7 years long.
Wow. That's so disheartening.
They are dying waiting to get into housing, and it's a crisis. Honestly, I know we're focused on so many other things that affect everybody, but I wish, and I really wish there were just open services for mental health. There are, but there are not enough,
Mm.
especially for our seniors, especially for those that, let's say, an individual doesn't qualify for assistance, whether that be Medicaid or housing assistance or food assistance or whatever it is, right? Because in our world, everything is based off of one phrase, and that is the average median income.
Mm.
When you're looking at any type of service, right, it doesn't matter if it's housing, food, healthcare, daycare, subsidized daycare, everyone is looking at these big HUD numbers. What is the area median income? And if your household goes above that, even by $1, you don't qualify for those services anymore. They just cut you off.
Wow.
No, let's figure out how to help you grow and support your family. That's why this cycle just continues to repeat itself, because once that person goes $1 over, well, we're happy for them that they do, but at the end of the day, now that health insurance falls on that family, the cost of health insurance. There is no nutritional benefits. Now, I understand it's paused, but you get where I'm going. There is no housing support. There's affordable housing that person may qualify for, which gives them a little bit of a break on their rent, but there's no more subsidy. And I think for our folks to be better supported, there needs to be a better system in place for that. But what ends up happening, especially for folks that are trying to treat their own mental health, if you are just over that income limit, you can't afford that $150 copay every single time you go to see a therapist. You can't afford that. You can't afford the medication to treat your mental health. You may know something is wrong. You may know that something's going on. You're stressed, you're anxious, or you have a more complex diagnosis like paranoid schizophrenia. If you don't know the right people and you don't have the connections to folks like Church Housing Corporation and these other nonprofits that are out here trying their best to serve mental health, um, it's really hard. It is really, really hard, because you want people to be able to empower themselves and to be able to better support themselves. But it takes a village to make it happen. I can't just say, hey, Mr. Smith, today's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith's reality may not be the same reality that I share. And sometimes even getting people the crisis help they need is really difficult, because there's also that right to care, as well as the it comes down to choice sometimes, as well as are those services there. And it is hard to work within that particular system, because I think we're getting better. Again, I pay credit where credit is due. However, if I could change one thing, I can work within the government, I can work within the changing policies and the different eight balls and where they're going. If I could change anything, I would really wish that mental health services were just readily available for people, that when they were experiencing a crisis, it wouldn't be trying to dodge different, hula hoops to get them the proper care and maintain that care. Because if we can maintain mental health care, we can maintain people's housing. One equals the other.
I do appreciate you sharing that. So I may not be able to help you with your biggest pain point, but I'm hoping that when we publish this podcast, that somebody can hear it, and then maybe, you never know, hopefully they can, wake up and realize something, that there's a huge need for this industry. So I do appreciate your time, and I know we've gone over our time period, and I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I think what would really help is maybe helping you try to grow, because we do need your services in many places, because there are, I found out from somebody that there's about an average of 11,000 people retiring every day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the need for your type of services is probably going to grow even more.
Oh, yeah. As cost of living, everything, it definitely grows every day. Our wait lists grow every single day, for this type of housing. Our longest wait list is 7 years long. So for a senior property. And we're not even the longest. Our housing authority has a 10-year wait list.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, definitely the need is there 110%. If we can grow, I'm here for it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I do appreciate it. I've had a great conversation with you, and really appreciate your insight.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. Best of luck in your podcast journey. I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Care Forward Innovations. We hope today's episode inspired you to help shape the future of senior care. Remember, big change starts small. Let our passion uncover fresh ideas and drive great changes forward. Be sure to follow us for more upcoming episodes where we share best practices, lessons learned, and practical solutions for senior care from other leaders. Let's keep moving care forward.